Okay, Boker Tov, we're in the Beis Amud Aleph. Oh, no, things are, we're not connected? Why not? Why should that happen? Before it was working. Start it again. Strange. Why is it not on the screen? It was working not long ago. I'm sorry for I don't understand why it's not showing on the screen. I'm sorry about the screen. The screen doesn't show over here. And the screen.
Zoom is showing Zoom.
Yeah, but the screen over here is not showing. Again, I don't know. This happened one time before, and okay, I don't know what to do. I have to continue like this. Yeah. Last time we just started the settings again. We did everything over again. I don't know. I'll have to look around what I did wrong. I'll try to figure out what I did wrong. What did I maybe make a wrong setting? Oh, it was working this morning. That's all. Okay, I'm sorry. No screen today. Okay, that man based on the Dafman base, we're still being recorded? I guess, yeah, we're still being recorded. Dafman base and the sugi was, we spoke about if it's possible to be Meshach or half an Eved. And Gemara said, Rebbe holds you can be Meshach or half an Eved. Surely two should for that. One of them freed his half. Surely it becomes a Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben. The question was, if a person could be a Meshach or half of his Eved. Rebbe holds he could, even B'shtar. I wouldn't say Shtar or not. And the question on Maram was about Kesef, yes or not. Yesterday we had a question that Kesef L'chorah should only take off the momentous, but not the Isser. So Avnisman said yesterday that there's a difference between Pidyon, and he's right. The Gemara before we had Aflam Tesam with Beis. Let's look into it again. That Shtar or Kesef, and that's how it says in Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam that if it's a Pidyon, so then he could also, it's like he's selling him to somebody, and he's selling him to himself. He's selling him to the. So therefore, if he's Poda, so then also the Isser goes off also. That all these. Whenever we say tzarich get shikol, it's only a mafkir avdo, that he doesn't disown the mominus. But when there is mominus, so then if you buy the mominus, so then, and that's what a pigeon is, so then the isser also goes off. That's the mafteach to the whole sugya. So here the Gemara said that yesterday's Gemara started off on top on Merabah, that even if you hold, you cannot put mishach or half and ever. It's only if you left the other half to yourself. But if you gave away the other half, or you sold the other half, so you got rid of everything that you own, everybody would hold that you could do that. You could be mishach or half and ever and give away. The Gemara the Kasha from a brisa that said that if somebody gave away his nechasim to two of his avadim, so one brisa says that they are kona, and the other one says they're not kona. And the problem is that this is the case when you, if you give all of your nechasim to two of your avadim, so to each one you're giving him himself. And you're giving the other half to somebody else, to the other Rebbe. So Shmuel Mishmida's case, and the Brisa said, one Brisa says it works, one Brisa says it doesn't work. So it seems to be, the more thought that it means Rabbi or Rabbanan. According to Rebbe, you can be Meshacher half an Eved, but according to Rabbanan, you can't. It must be against you, Rabbi. So more we said so far, one teretz. The first teretz was there can be four teretzim altogether. We'll do the other three teretzim today. So the first teretz was that it's talking about chetzi, that he only gave each one half. And let's say that make it simple, he made it consecutive, not at the same time, one after the other. So the first one, he didn't give away everything because he gave him half of his nechasim. So he gave him half of himself, but the other half he gave to himself. So he didn't yet give away the other half. And Rabbi just said that if he gave away everything that he has, then he could sell. He could be Meshachar half an Evid. That was yesterday's teretz. And go back now to the next teretz. Continue to the next teretz. Last one on the line is Viboy Zema. Viboy Zema lo kasha. Kan b'shtarechad kan. Rabbi said that even if you hold, you can't free half an Evid, but if you freed half an Evid and you gave away or sold the other half, you could, because you got rid of everything that you have. That was Rabbi's Yisod, and the kasha was from a brisa that says if you gave all of your nechasim to two of your avadim, it does not work. And that seems to be the reason would be because you only were Meshachar half an Evid, even though you gave away the other half. So here's another teretz. Boy Sema lo kasha kam b'shtarechad kam b'shnei shtaros. So Rashi tells us there's a din that you can't be Meshachar two avadim with one star. And it seems to be a new halacha that we didn't know yet, that if you write in one star, I'm being Meshachar two avadim, you can't do it. And that's the Chesaron Obeh, nothing to do with the fact that he did a half. The fact that it's Meshachar two avadim with one star, he learned by get. You can't be, even if a person has two wives, he wants to divorce both of them, he can't do one divorce document for both of them. He has to make individual. So too, there's a Hirach Chesaron is because he was freeing them with one star. So it has nothing to do with Chetzi Chetzi. Yes, the Gemara's kasha. You boys saying, "Well, kasha kamish terechad kamish teish." So the Gemara's kasha is, if that's true, why does the brisa end off that the case was that he said chetzi chetzi also? If that's the pshat of the brisa, so why does the brisa end off that he gave each one whole or he gave each one half? If the chesaron is because he did it in one star, it's nothing to do with chetzi chetzi. And the Gemara said that's what it means. It's a little dochak, but the Gemara says that's what the brisa means to say. Afas malokanu, that the brisa says that if he wrote to both of his avodim, they're not even calling themselves. Because he was meshachar to avodim with one star, and that's the chesaron. If you would have made a star for each one, it would have been kona because you could be meshachar half an evid since you gave away the other half. If it would have been a case of two stars, then chetzi chetzi still wouldn't be good because at each time he gave away, he was meshachar half and he kept the other half until he gave it away. So that's how we're going to be matrik the brisa in order to make it reconcile with Rabbah, who said this Yisod, which the Gemara is going to uphold, that if he was Meshachar half and he gave away the other half or sold the other half, then it is good. Ibo is saying, Matthias number 3, Lo Kasha, Kan Basachas, Kan Bazachazeh. This the Gemara is not going to hold for too many lines. The Gemara tries to say, the Basachas, Bazachazeh. The Basachas, it does work, because he gave away half, he freed half, and he gave away half to each one. The time that says it doesn't work is because Bazar Chazeh. What was Bazar Chazeh? The first teretz was Kula and Chetzi Chetzi. Kula and Chetzi Chetzi, right? And you're going to the first, which teretz? The first or the second, or the one right before that? The first, yesterday's teretz, that it was Kula or Chetzi Chetzi. And what's the Gemara test that says the difference of Basachas? Rashi says both of them are talking about Kula. That is no Chetzi Chetzi. Both of them is Kula. But the one that says Hadek Tani Kanu Shamos Shnei Shtos Basachas, Hadek Tani Lo Kanu Bazar Chazeh. And the question is going to be, why not? The first one should be Kona. If he gave Bazar, that's what the Gemara right. What? And that's the most kasha that no reason why it shouldn't work. The Gemara is not going to accept this because it is kasha. The second one doesn't get anything because the first one already got everything. He gave one shot to one evidence and said everything is yours. Then he gave another shot to the second one, said everything is yours. So the second one's not going because everything was given away already. The first one should have been going because he got everything. He should be going everything. The test doesn't make sense. And the Gemara says, you're right, it doesn't make sense. We have to go back. The word machbarta means white. That the clarity is what we said before. The other teretz, the first teretz, the second teretz, this teretz is not good. And Ravashi is the last teretz. Ravashi Yomar, a left field teretz. What was the kasha? That Rabbi said that if you freed half an eved and gave away the other half, so it does work. And the other brisa seems to say that it doesn't work. It says that someone gave all of his estate to two avadim, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Each one, he gave him himself and gave away the other half. A left field teretz. Ravashi Yomar, Shani Yosam, the kakori behu avadai. In the star, he said that I'm giving all my nechasim to two of my avadim. Since he called them avadim, So that's saying that I'm not making you free. I'm not making you free. If he says I'm giving, it has to no, it's lashon rabim because two. But if it would have been one also, if he would have said I'm giving all my nechasim to Ploni, my slave, he called him my slave in the contract where he's giving himself, where he's giving away, where he's giving him himself. He calls him an eved. That's like a declaration. I'm not making you free because why are you calling me an eved? And it's nothing to do with two, even if it be one, which is a kasha, because the Brisa says over here there's something about two. Therefore, if he says he doesn't mean that here it says abadai. In the contract where it says I'm gonna give you everything, he still calls him an eved. But Rafam doesn't like this case either. Rafam told Ravashi, that's because he calls him an eved doesn't mean that he's still calling him an eved. He was one my eved. Till now you're my eved, then I'm giving you all of my nechasim. Don't make it that he's calling him still an eved. It's going to be a proof that even if it calls him an eved, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's still calling him an eved, and it should put a stick in the wheel. It says if someone gave all of his nechasim to his eved, so far doesn't say anything because he didn't say in the contract my eved. He just said he wrote all his nechasim away to his eved. Yatsa lecherus, the eved goes free because he got himself. He got all the estate, including himself. Shir karka kol shul lo yatsa lecherus. We're going to get one diak in the whole Mishnah over here. When that's for the Mishnah, if he left over something, so then he doesn't go free. Why? Because even though he said specifically, I'm leaving over karka culture, because since he left over the karka, he also left over something else also. He left over something else, he can leave over the Eved, and the Eved didn't get anything. This word is going to be emphasized, the word avdi. He didn't have to say that, but Agav said it. He said, if he said a specific piece of karka I'm leaving over for myself, that doesn't mean that he leaves over the Eved. The Eved is not the piece of karka. He said, I'm leaving over the piece of karka. He tells him where, next to the gate over there. He's leaving over the piece of karka. So the Tanakhama says he left over the Eved also, for whatever reason. But Reb Shimon says that he didn't. He just said he's leaving over a piece of karka. That's not a reason why he should have left over the Eved. But if he didn't specify a specific piece of karka that he's leaving over, he just left out a certain achuz, a certain percentage. It says, I'm giving you everything except for 1%. So then he could say that you're the 1% that I left over. And it says, Agav says even a bigger chiddush, not only 1%, even 1/10,000th of the nechasim. That also you could say you're the 1/10,000th. So he said, I'm 1/10,000. That's how much you consider me. He said, yeah. So that's a side chiddush. That even if he's left any minute amount, he could say you're the one that are left over, and therefore he doesn't go free. That's all. Yes. No, he said, if he says all my property goes free, so then he goes free. That's what it says. That's not an issue. The issue was the next one. He left over something. And he left over something besides a culture. So karka culture. So then loyal salachayus. That's Tanakh. And even though he left over karka, specific, he told which karka. So then the Tanakh says he left over the Eved also. That's a chiddush in his explanation. But Reb Shimon says no, he's not the karka that he left over. He's not karka. He's not a piece of land. But if he said I'm leaving over something, he didn't say what. So then he can say that it's you. And Agav, a footnote, even if he said a small minute amount, also he could say I meant you. Anyway, we don't want all that. We want this one word. He said, Avdi. He says the word Avdi. In the contract that he said, I'm leaving over, he said Avdi. So he shouldn't get anything. According to you, Abashi, when he says the word Avdi, he doesn't get anything. It's the only reason why he doesn't go free is because he left over something. But if he would have said, I'm giving you everything, and here he says the word Avdi, he does get it. Why does he get it? According to you, Abashi, if he calls him Eved in the contract, he doesn't get anything because he's Megalav Das, he wasn't freeing him. So you see it wrong. When you say Avdi in the contract, it means that till now he's my Eved, and now I'm freeing him because I'm giving him himself. So it's not a raya. So it's not a good teretz. Rav said the reason why in this brayso that it says that if he gave all the chasim to two of his avadim, they're not kona, is a side issue because they called them avadim. But the Gemara rejects that because even though he called them avadim, we see other places in the Mishnayos that the word avadai, calling him an eved in the contract, doesn't mean that he's still calling him an eved. So that teretz doesn't help us. And but Rabbi still seems to stand. Rabbi said this is so that even if you hold that you can't be mishachar half an eved, but if you gave away whatever you have, even if you sold the other half, you gave away the other half, it's also enough. It's also enough that you should be able to free half an eved. Before you came, we just said over what you said is right. that yesterday my question was on the whole sugya that with kesef, with pidyon, you can do half an eved, it only takes care of the mamadus, it doesn't take care of the isser. So yeah, so we said the Teres, that pidyon, he said the pidyon was different, and that's right. And the Gemara says it beferish. I just didn't see it. The Gemara says Lametesam Beis, when it talks about being the Eved redeeming himself. So the Gemara says, you're right, it doesn't only mean shtar or kesef, and you must say a difference between the mafkir avdo or being poda. Mafkir avdo, the money is on disowned, but if you gave the money to someone, he gave the money to himself. The Eved redeems himself, or somebody redeems him, so he paid for it, he gave money for it. So you get rid of the Isser also. That's what it says here in Lametesam Beis, and that's in Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam, everything seems to be very. We learned it 5 days ago, but the way to get rid of this is not only you get shikhr, there's also money, but not just mafkir the mafkir though. So then you just this owns your money, the money that is floating around, then the Isser is still there. But if you sold it or sold it himself even, which is he's going to be free. But that still, that there was money given for it, and then the Isser does go off. Very big yisod in all these halachas. I didn't happen over there. Okay, thank you. The last point is that there's a way to get rid of the Isser, the status, to raise the status of there, but not only to get shekhin. I was under the impression from the Mafkir Avdo that even that the money is one issue and the Isser is the status is another issue, and even if the money is taken care of, and Mafkir Avdo, you redeemed it, but the Isser is still there. The Isser is status. You have to give a get shekhin in order to raise the status. So that's a mistake. It's not true. Talmud Bar Mishnah is not true. The Gemara said in Farish that also redeeming is also a way to get rid of the Isser. Only Mafkir Avdo. Mafkir Avdo means you just disowned it, but you didn't. It wasn't exchanged. There wasn't exchange for the money. But when the Eved is exchanged for money, so then the Isser goes to fault. Also. Yeah, I remember. So we're 5 lines from the bottom. So now we finished. We finished with the whole thing. You came in so far. How did you get a Chatzi Eved Chatzi Ben Chorin? And the simple way is that they were two Shutzfen and one of them freed him. And the whole Gemara went to the Sugi, could you free half an Eved? And we found out Rabbi holds you could. If one holds you can't with the Shtar, maybe with the Kesef, yes. And maybe if you gave away the other half also, that's all the Sugi, how you got a Chatzi Eved Chatzi Ben Chorin. And now we're going into the halachas of a Chatzi Eved Chatzi Ben Chorin. The Mishnah only said one thing about Kofan Israel, they take an olam that since he can't marry anybody, so they made a tikkun olam that the master has to free the half an eved. Well, now we're going to go into the halachas about Chatzi Ben Chorin. So 5 lines in the bottom. Not kol shor yom, not kol shor. A shor gored this Chatzi Ben Chorin. What's it then if a shor gores and killed? He gored and killed a man. If he's a free man, so then there's kofar. He pays kofar. He pays the if it's a muad or. And we're talking about a muad. And if it was an eved, Kanani say pay shloshim kesef. It's a set price. It doesn't make a difference how valuable he is. It goes set price shloshim kesef. So this man is a Chatzi Ben Chorin. I'm sorry. Please delete everything I said. Please delete. We're talking about he damaged him. He didn't kill him. Later on, we'll talk about killing him. Here we're talking about he damaged him, and he damaged an eved. And usually, if someone damages an eved, the payment goes to the master because anything is worth belongs to the master. Same way if you damage a horse or a donkey, so you pay the master. So if you damage an eved, the money goes to the master. So here the question is that what does eved have chamisha dvarim also? If a human, the eved, the shor never pays chamisha dvarim. Only a human who hits. Yeah, so far, here, I don't know the answer, but so far he's talking about a shor. So a shor pays damages. Who does he pay damages to? If he's a free man, he pays damages to the free man. If he's an eved, he pays damages to the master. So what happened? There's a Chatzi Ben Chorin over here. So and the shor damaged him. Who does he pay? He's a half eved, half free man, right? Half eved, half free man. Oh, I was just introducing an eved would go to the master. A free man. Right. So what would be the din of an eved? He would pay to the master. If it would be a ben chorin, he'd pay to himself. And here is a Chatzi Ben Chorin. So what would you say? I would say that he pays half and half. If there's a damage, so he should pay half and half. Here it doesn't say it. Not choshor. So the halach is Yom Shel Rabo, the Rabo. Yom Shel Atzmo, the Atzmo. It depends which day it happened. On the day that it happened, welcome, feel comfortable. On the day that it happened, the day that it happened. You look at the day that it happened. The other person would say, well, I don't care when it happened. Right now, my eved is damaged. He's missing a hand. No koshor. Right, no kosher. If it happened on the day of the master, Sunday, Tuesday, how do we say Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, he works for the master. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he works for himself. So if it happened on the day that he's working for the master, so the payment goes to the master. Yom Shalasmo Lasmo. If it's a day that the payment goes to himself, so then the payment goes to himself. You don't care. The next day he comes without a hand. He says, not he comes. He means he's himself. He doesn't come. He comes to he himself. He doesn't have hand the next day. So where's my payments? No payments. Why? Because it happened on the day that the master. We wouldn't have said that. We would have said, yeah, we wouldn't have said that. We would have said that they should split it. They should split it. That's what he seems to say. Then what's the kasha? You're looking at it like that. Yom Shel Rabo Yisa Shifcha Yom Shel Asma Yisa Baschorin. Are you going to say that one day he's allowed to marry? For one day he's allowed to marry on the day that he's working for himself. He's also allowed to marry a Jewish girl, and then he'll divorce her, and then the next day he'll marry a shifcha because he's an eved. You don't look at it like that. So here too, you shouldn't look at it that today he was working for himself, so then all the payment goes to himself, and he's working for the master. All the payment goes to the master. So the Gemara answers, "Yisur lo kamino." That's different. First, the Gemara pushes it aside. This is different. His halachic status doesn't change, but as far as the payment, it is going to depend on which day it happened. And we don't understand it yet. I don't know if we are going to understand it. That's what the Gemara says, that the damages are, it depends which day it happened. Tashma, hey, Miss Misha. Yeah, whatever, yeah. If it happened on the master's time, that whole payment goes to the master. If it happens on his own time, the whole payment goes to himself. Not more brings in the issue about killing. Tell him we spoke about that the shore bored him and damaged him, and not more is talking about if the shore killed. So what's the din there is with the introduction comes that when someone kills a human, a free man, say it's a kofar, and if he killed a eved, he pays shloshim shalevet, shloshim, a set price of shloshim, and 30 shkolim, whatever the shkolim is, and the Gemara talks about now chatzi eved chatzi ben chorin. What if he's half half? What would we say? 15, and how about the half of the free man? Half kofar. That's what it says. Those nechatzi kinas l'rabo. Amid base, lechatzi kofer liyorsha. And you shouldn't say that. You should have said it depends on which day it was. You should have said it. If it happened on the day that he's working, what's the difference between goring with damages or goring with killing? If you look at each day, that's the day of the payment. So then here also you should have said that. Here it doesn't say. Here it says that they split it. So also the damages that the shore damaged him also should be split half-half. According to you, that was a Rashi before. Who said that? Not Choshor. So Rashi tells us right away. It doesn't say Tanur Rabbanan. It just started off not Choshor. So it's a memory. It's a statement of Avrohom that some Amora said. It doesn't say who said it. There's no author, and it's against this brisa. So that's the Morris Kasha, that there shouldn't be any difference. Third line, so the Gemara says there's a difference over here when he killed him. So then the Karen usually means the principle, means the thing itself. So here that the Eved died, the man, the Chatzi ben Chorin died. So over here, there you do split it. Then you don't look at it which day it happened. Then you look at it. Everybody lost out. The person, even though he's working for the master on this day, but his essence was destroyed. So it's also going to be paid for half and half. You don't look at when he was working. And here we're talking about what does it mean? The Gemara mean to say that the damages was a case where it's not Kalya Karna. Battery is running. So here it's talking about that it was not Kalya. If he died, then it's called Kalya Karna. That's called that the Keren, the principle was destroyed. That the Kalya, like Vayechulu, he was killed, right? But the Gemara will talk about right away. Damages also sometimes it's called also that the thing is not here anymore. Well, the low Kalya Karna means let's say the shore would have gored the Eved and he didn't die, but he lost a hand. That's also called Kalya Karna. The hand is not here anymore. So the damages how do you evaluate the damages when he cut his hand? So you would go to the slave market, see how much he's worth to sell as a slave with a hand, and how much he's worth to sell without it. That's also called Kalya Karna. He's permanently worth less. So the more has to find the case. According to answer the kasha, we have to find the case where there's going to be damages that is not a permanent damage. If it will be a permanent damage, the more is giving in. We're now editing a little bit the statement that we said before. Before we said that damages depends which day it happened. If it happened on the day of the master's work, he gets all the money. It happened on the day of his own day. so then he gets all the money. Not a Gemara saying, not exact, not 100%. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes it would be split 50-50 if it would have been a permanent damage. And how much his value is to be sold as a slave, the price went down, so then both of them split that damage. What's the case over here? El Hechidami. This $8 stands for Hechidami. El Hechidami, the local Kali Karna. What's going to be a case of damages that is not permanent, that the Karen was not destroyed permanently? Kigon Sheiko Al Yodo, but some say Yodo, but so far that he had a temporary damage, that he hit him, the shore hit him, struck him, and some say the word "samas" literally means to be shrunk, but it means that some shrunk literally, but it doesn't mean that. It means that his hand is not being able to be used. He broke his hand temporarily. It has to be in a cast for 6 weeks, but then he's going to be fine. So it's going to get back to me. So, and that's the damages that's not considered permanent. And for some reason, I still don't understand it. How come over here, it does depend on which day it happened. If it would have been a permanent damage, and you're going to go to the slave market to evaluate how much is the difference between with a hand, without a hand. So then what? So then it's divided evenly. But if it's not a permanent damage, it's only a temporary damage, then it depends which day it happened. And now I want to ask a question a business question, nothing to do with the Gemara, on the slave market or on the car market, whatever you're going to go. How much should the price be in the slave market for this Eved who has a broken hand and the doctor says in 6 weeks he's going to be fine? How much would the value be less? So I would think for 6 weeks less. I'm also so it seems and the 6 weeks out, 6 weeks, and then the same price. So I would think the same way, but it seems that we're not businessmen. It seems that that's not how it works, and I would prove it. How come when someone's selling a car, he takes it for the car wash and then he presents, this is the car I have for sale. Why don't you leave it dirty with all the dust? And okay, it costs $10 for a car wash. Why don't you do that? No. And you're not going to get the same price minus $10. That's how it sells. It seems to be the same thing. I don't know why it is so. I don't know why psychology is. If he sells him today, with a broken hand, even though the doctor come with a doctor's note that in 6 weeks is going to be fine, it doesn't. You won't get the same price. He won't get the same price deducting 6 weeks work. That's not the way it works. So that now there's something called unemployment, the shavas. You pay for how much you can't work. But now there's also a question: do you pay for how much he's devalued if you would sell him today in the market? Even though we would say, not as businessmen, that it's the same thing. It's just deducting how much you can't work, but it doesn't work that way. If you want to sell them today, you're going to get less on the whole value. So that's what the Gemara talks about now. Is there such a nezek? The Gemara just finished saying that that's a nezek we're talking about. The unemployment, it seems pashut, the unemployment that each one is going to get how much unemployment he got. This ever they can't work for 6 weeks, so half the money Sunday, Tuesday, make all the cheshbonas, and how much did he get at unemployment? How much did he get? Both of them are going to be reimbursed for how much they're losing work. But is there a payment of the nezek, which is called the devaluation? How much was he devalued? You might say it wasn't devalued at all. It's just minus 6 weeks work. No, there's a devaluation maybe. So that's what the Gemara is happy to say, that that's what's going to be depending on which day it happened. If it would be a permanent damage, so then they were divided equally. But if it's a temporary damage, the devaluation of a temporary damage, that depends which day it happened. Which also I don't understand why. No, yes, not only the 6 weeks, not the 6 weeks work, but the devaluation, if I'd sell them today on the slave market, how much will I get less? And that's not just 6 weeks work. That's what it seems. Or at least the machlokas over here. So, so I looked, my Chavus looked around, I wrote down something, I don't understand it. Why should it be a dip? Why is the more happier now? That it's not, that this is a svara that depends on which day it happened. He says something appointed to the rush, but I didn't get it, so I'm not going to say I don't know. So here the Gemara goes on the 5th line. Yes. Before the case of getting killed, when he gets killed, so then he's divided half a million. And the Gemara says, you're right, if it will be a permanent damage and you want to know how much he's worth on the slave market less, also divide half a million. Right. A devaluation, not a permanent, no, it's a non-permanent. If it will be a permanent devaluation, also it would, again, I'm not sure if we're saying the same thing. If he was killed, which is permanent, so then it's half, no matter when it happened. If it will be a permanent damage, and that's why he's devalued, also half, so we don't care when it happened. If it was a temporary damage, which devalued him, not the unemployment, the devaluation of the temporary, that is depends which day it happened. And parentheses, I don't understand why it should be different. Now the Gemara says on the fifth line, this whole concept we just said about a temporary damage which causes a devaluation in the market price is not so simple. No say no Sheves Gadol, this word is Sheves, not Shabbos. No say no Sheves Gadol, but Sheves Katana. Sheves usually means how much he can't work, when he has to be home, unemployment. But Rabbi Abaye says that there's a new thing called Sheves Gadola. Rashi explained Sheves Gadola means what we said, the temporary devaluation, which causes a devaluation on the market price for selling him as an Eved. So Rabbi says you have to pay that also. That's a nezek. The Sheves Katana. Sheves Katana means what we call unemployment, how many days he can't work. Shamper, you're right that you have such a shot that there's a nezek, there's a damage paid for the temporary devaluation. If you sell him during these days, during these 6 weeks, he's not going to be worth the same amount. So then you're right. You can say such a shot. Your shot is right. You have such a shot. Wherever it happened, because there is such a payment to pay. So then the payment that's going to be paid is going to be paid on the. What we said is the evaluation when he's temporarily damaged. If you want to sell, he has a cash for 6 weeks. If you sell him during the 6 weeks, he's going to be worth less. Abai says you have to pay for that, even though no one asked him to be sold right now. He's not going to be sold. He's not going to be sold at all. He's not a slave, but it has to be paid for as nezek. And the Sheves, we know there's a nezek, tzar, ripu, Sheves, boshes. There are many payments to pay. So Sheves time is the regular Sheves, the regular unemployment. That for 6 weeks he can't work, so there has to be reimbursed for those 6 weeks. So if that's true, that there's such a payment called Nesheves Gadol, so you're right. You can say that's the shot over here, and that's the case where it depends which day it happened. There is no such payment. You just pay him the regular unemployment, how much he can't work. You don't look at this devaluation. If he was a permanent damage, then it's surely the devaluation on the market. But if it's not the case, just that he's going to get back better in 6 weeks. But right now, if you sell him, he'd be worth less. There's no payment for that. So according to that, so then he's still going to have a shot, because you can't say it's talking about the Sheves, that's going to be on the day that he's working. I would have said simply because then surely it's going to be divided according to everybody that lost out on the unemployment. But here the Gemara says the challah wouldn't be any payment. I shoru b'shoyin and mishalim nezek. The case here is we start off the sugya that not choshor. That's how it started. 5 lines up beyond Amar Aleph. It said not choshor. Shor doesn't pay Sheves. A shor only pays the devaluation. When a human damages, he pays five payments. Nezek, tzar, ripu, sheves, boshes, 5. But a shor that's mazik doesn't pay for unemployment. He only pays for the damage and how much he's worth. He's devalued to pay on the market. So you can't say you're a shor. There's only sheves. No, everyone says there's no sheves for a shor. A shor doesn't pay sheves. If a shor damaged somebody, he does pay how much he was devalued on the market. Abai says there's such a devaluation value. No. Chatzi ben chorin. Our sugi is Chatzi ben chorin that was damaged by a shor. If you look, high shor, the sheves of every day, the unemployment of every day. Then why is asking? Rabbi says that there's no when somebody damages. Don't know we're talking about a human being. This what we start buying Rav, this machlok is about the temporary devaluation, is about a human that was mazik a human. And then the question was, right. And Adam was saying, but if you say this, that Rav doesn't consider the temporary devaluation, you don't consider that, you're not have to pay that. So the only thing you're paying is for the unemployment. But back to our case, now we're going back to our case, like it started on Amar Aleph, no kol shor, that a shor gored an eved, the chatzi ben chorin, about who the payment goes to, and you want to say about Sheves, the shor doesn't pay Sheves to anybody. Even if a shor would have gored a fully free man, there's no payment of Sheves. Shor only pays the valuation. He doesn't pay for unemployment. So high shoru, b'shoyin mishalim and nezek. Shor only pays nezek. There is no nezek over here, you're saying. So the Gemara is still stuck with how you're going to reconcile Rava to say pshat in this Chatzi ben chorin about how come it depends on which day it happened. The Gemara says, you're right, that this you have to talk about, not no koshor. It's talking about, so it says no koshor. I guess we're changing it. It's talking about that a human hit him. And then there's going to be the issue of which day it happened. Remember the Rav. The secretary says that go back, it wasn't a brisa, It wasn't a Mishnah. It was a member. It was a statement by some Amora. We don't know who. And Rava doesn't hold it. It means Rava was entitled to argue on this statement. It wasn't a brisa. If it be a brisa, you would knock down Rava. But it's not a brisa. It was a member, a statement by an Amora, and Rava was entitled to argue. Next sugya, new sugya. So we're all going to be talking about mostly about Chatzi ben Chorin. This next case is also going to be an application of Chatzi ben Chorin, but it has other applications also. So here the Gemara starts. So this is a new title that we just heard now. Somebody who is get shechur is held up. He doesn't have a get shechur. All the cases where we said Yatzal Lachayus for Tzarech get shechur. As we said many times, that the Eved has two issues. One is the monetary value, his financial status, and the other one is, that's not the right way to say it, his monetary status, who owns him, and there's the halachic status. Is he allowed to marry a Bas Yisrael? Is he considered halachically an Eved, Kanani, or he's a Jew? So here's a case of somebody who's mu'ukab get shechur, that he's really free, but he still didn't get his get shechur yet. He didn't get it yet. The master is away on a business trip for a week. The business is closed for. He didn't get it yet. He just didn't get it. He's waiting to get his get shechur. He's held back. He hasn't gotten it yet. His financial state is he's his own man. He's just a lefirus. He doesn't have to work. I don't have it at all yet. No. I don't have any. No. Right. But there's a difference between what we're talking about in the state, in the shlav, in the stage where he's Yatzal Lefirus, but he still didn't get a get shechur. He's Yatzal Lefirus. If you're going to tell me the thing, I have nothing. But here the evidence is already free. Just he didn't get his get shechur. It means the monetary issue is his. He's already his own man. He doesn't work for anybody anymore. He's his own man. Financially, nobody owns him. Because the mafkir, let's say it's mafkir. Yeah, I disown you. I'm mafkir avda. That was the case we had. We had a big issue. Mafkir avda yasal l'cheres for tzarech get shechur, and other cases also. You didn't get it in the get shechur. Also, just to throw in a little complication, which the Gemara is going to use, that also what would we call him? The Chatzi ben Chorin. The Chatzi ben Chorin. What do we have about Chatzi ben Chorin? Half of him is a ben Chorin, right? How about the Chatzi Eved? So instead of the Mishnah, back to our Mishnah said the Chatzi ben Chorin. If he would alternate working days, so the money is taken care of. But as far as the status that he's able to marry anybody, he's stuck, right? That's what Bishamai said. It's not taken care of. He's chatzi. He can't marry anybody. He can't marry shechur. Can't marry bas chorin. So what did Bishamai say? We're going to force him to get shechur. We're going to force the master to free him. Remember, that was the Mishnah. So that's not. Oh, and so here's also another mu'kav. One case of mu'kav is going to be a mafkir avda asal l'cheres v'tzarech get shechur. Another case is going to be the chatzi ben chorin, that the chatzi eved part, right? But he's on the way out. It sounds in the Gemara he can stop working already. I'm not sure why. Let's say we're going to force the master to free him because he can't marry anybody. So the person sets up an appointment for next Tuesday. Next Tuesday comes and we're going to give a get shechur. So during this week, does the Eved still have the Chatzi Eved? Does he still have to work? I would have said, why not? Yeah, she works still, but it seems not. Since we said we're forcing him, so part of the force is that he stops working. So this is another case of Ukov get shechur. Somebody who's Yatzal Lefirus with Tzarech get shechur. So here starts the sugya. Ukov get shechur. Yesh lo knas or ein lo knas. Knas means he was killed. The Eved was killed by a shore. So the Baal shore has to pay 30 kesef. So what's the status of this Eved? On one hand, he's an Eved because he didn't get a get shechur yet. On the other hand, he was already Yatzal Lefirus. How do you look at this Eved? He doesn't have a full master. He has a master who's the authority to give him a get shechur, but he didn't get a get shechur yet. So the monetary issue is his own. There's no, if he's a free master, there is no knas. So goes to his Yorshim. Right, there's money. There's a money. Either the Yorshim, and if it's a free man, then it'll go. Then there's kofar. And so here the question would be, what status does he have? On one hand, he has a master. On the other hand, he doesn't have a master. He's his own boss as far as money, he's the master's, he has a master as far as the authority to give him a get shikra. Is that authority that the master, he's the one who's authorized to give him a get shikra? Is that enough? What did it have? The Gemara is going to bring the Rana. Yeah, very perfect, and that's what the Gemara is going to bring. The Gemara is going to be this brisa to answer this question. What do you say? He says in the brisa that he gets half and half. Very nice. So that was the most question. You're right. You're very right. But just a little that the knech, that the simple case when we would have looked at we would have said simple. I'm not the Yotzel Acheres with Sarah get shikra. What's a mukhav get shikra? Means I gave it away a little bit because the Gemara is going to point out what you said, that Chatzi ben Chorin is also a mukhav get shikra because we're going to force him to be free. But that's already a knech. That's how do you say the untrained eye wouldn't have seen all that. And mukhav get shikra means a simple case. I'm not get shikra, but this fancy case that we're going to force him, and therefore even the half of Avdus is also on the way out, is already a trained eye. So here the Gemara goes, mukhav get shikra, yesh lo kanas, ein lo kanas. Somebody who's yatzal l'cheres, but he still didn't get his get shikra, and he was killed by a shore. Is there going to be the kanas of shloshim shaleva? Does he have a master? Is he called an eved? What's the Gemara explains the two stadim? It says in the pasuk kesef shloshim shkalim yitain ladono. That's the pasuk that the master gets 30 kesef if the eved was killed by a shore. The pasuk says this, that's what the Hashem says. And this Fahaylav Adonu, he's not the master because he doesn't own the monetary value of the eved anymore. Because we just Dilma, oh, he's still called the master because he has to give him a get shikra, so he's still the authority over him to give him the get shikra. So to tell them, is he called the Adon or not? Tashma, maybe Yaakov's proof. It says in the Bryce at the turn of the page. That was the Bryce that said that if a shore killed this Chatzi ben Chorin, so he gives half of the 30, 15 goes to the master, and the Chatzi Kofar goes to the Yoshim. So you see that there is a Knas, it's called the Adam. Very nice, beautiful. But the Gemara says there was a Knech over there. Ma'ala Mishnah Achrona. The Gemara says this, the Gemara continues in the question. The proof is only if you go in Mishnah Achrona. Mishnah Achrona means that Beis Hillel was molded to Bishamai, that you forced the master to free him. But that wasn't always, historically, it wasn't always true. The Gemara says, no, it's not a proof. Commissioner Rishona. It could be that this is a brisa which was an old brisa before Beis Hillel gave in, and the halacha would be that he remains a Chatzi ben Chorin. He's not on the way out. So he's so it's a simple that the Chatzi Eved is going to be 15 of half of the Knas. This brisa was an old brisa. The brisa was an old brisa according to the original Mishnah that said that you're not going to. So then he surely split it because he's not on the way out. Well, there was no to come before. There was no to come before, and he's going to stay. He's going to stay in there. But so he's not on the way out. Another raya. The issue is good. He's Chatzi. He's Yotzel Acheres but Tzorich get shikra. Do you say that the master is still considered a master as far as here we said the Knas, as far as Shloshim Shalevit? Is the master considered a master or not? He doesn't own him at all, but he has the authorization, he's the authority to give him a get shikra. Tashma, here's a case. We know the halacha is about Shein V'ayim. People, Shishino, Simi Aseno, if a master of every Kanani, even unintentionally, he knocks out his tooth, knocks out his eye, so the Eved goes free. A regular Ben Chorin, he has to pay for the value. By a Eved, he goes free. The Eved goes free. Here the case is, and the case is either one, either the tooth or the arm. Here he did both. The master fell the tooth of his Eved and also blinded him. I'm telling you a story, it happened. So now the question is, after he knocked out his tooth, so he goes free. Right? And then he also blinded him or knocked out another tooth. And either or would have been enough. But here it doesn't mean enough. Here the Bryce talking about a case that both of them happened. Oh, so you should have to pay him for the. Oh, that's what it says. That's what it says. People that shino v'sim meseno yotzek b'shino, but no send him me'eno. So he goes free because of the tooth that was, and he's going to get money for the eye. Good. Everyone's happy. We shouldn't be happy because he didn't get a get shikra. Oh, that's the question. But we would imagine he still needs to get shikra. So he's this chatzi chatzi. He's not a chatzi chatzi, but he's mukab get shikra. The more thinks he's a mukab, the more thinks he's a mukab get shikra. If you say that he's still considered eved of the master because he didn't get a get shikra yet, and if it will be a question of knas 30, so you'd say that the other is called the other. If the other is called the other legabe the knas, that means that the master would be eligible to get the knas, even though he's the yasal achemus. But still, I didn't give him a get shikra yet, so I'm still the man. I'm still the balabayas. And if he gets killed, I'm going to get the shloshim shalevet, half of it. So too, and I have to pay him for damaging him. If someone would damage him, I would get paid. The master will get paid. And if the master damages him, he has to pay the eved. He's still my eved. He's still my eved. If you say that this person who's a mukab get shikra, the master is still considered the master, and the master will get paid the knas. If someone else would damage him, the payment to go to the master. And now that the master damages him, he has to pay the eved. Can't be. So you see that the master is not called a master anymore. The fact that if he knocked out his tooth and then his eye, he has to pay for the tooth, for the eye, even though he didn't give him a get shikra yet. So you see that he's not considered a master, even though he has to get a get shikra. Very nice. So the Gemara says, yeah, this thing that the Chaim David asked, is it true that maybe he goes out automatically? Maybe by he knocks out his tooth, there's no get shikra. Maybe he goes completely out. So the Gemara was assuming that he has to get a get shikra, but the Gemara says not so simple. Maybe this brisa that says he has to pay for the eye is only because he holds he doesn't get a get shikra. But if he'd have to get a get shikra, then maybe he wouldn't have to pay. The Tanya, the Kulan, everybody else ben lecheirus, but Sarach get shikra, maybe Abdul, maybe Rabbi Shmuel, but maybe Omer, ain't no Sarach. In all these cases, Bekulan means that besides the pasuk talks about the tooth and the eye, and then there's a drasha to say that also any of the 24 Rashi Yevarim means his fingers, his toes. That's also called Rashi Yevarim. What else does it have? There's another one, Rosh Gavia, and another 3. There's 24 altogether. So there are 24 Yevarim that's considered Rashi Yevarim that also, if the master damaged them, also he goes after him. So Bekulan, and all the Rashi Yevarim, everybody else behind the chayros. But Tzarech gets shikra. Maybe Rabbi. That's what we said so far. Till now, we assumed in the kasha and the raya that we brought, we assumed that he needs to get shikra. So that's what Rabbi Shmuel says. Rabbi Shmuel says that even though he goes free, he still needs to get shikra. And then the raya would have been a good raya. That you see that the master does that. What you see that even though he needs to get shikra, still the master is not called the master. It's not called the master. Even though he's a get shikra, but he's not called the master. But Rabbi Tafan says Rabbi Meir that he does need to get shekha. So if you say he does need to get shekha, then it's not a right our case. If he does need to get shekha, surely the master is not a master. We're going in the case of looking at Avdo, a different case where he does need to get shekha. That was the question we had, and we didn't answer it. He brought it right from a case that does not need to get shekha. Does not need to get shekha, then surely he's not a master. The Gemara goes into the subject a little bit already. Once we mentioned this question about Shem V'ayin, if the master knocked out a Shem V'ayin, so he goes free, does he need to get shikra? We said it's a machlokas Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Meir. It's also other machlokas in Rabbi Lezer Omer Tzarech, Tafan Omer Ein Tzarech, Rabbi Kiva Omer Tzarech. Different amount of other. Tzarech gets shikra, right? Doesn't make a difference. As he goes free. Yasal Lechayim. Doesn't make a difference. The question is, does he need to get shikra? We're just interested in one thing. Does he need to get shechur? If he needs to get, that's machlokas. If he needs to get shechur or not. If he needs to get shechur, so it fits into our category of mukaf get shechur. No breaker. No breaker. Sarach get shechur means that he can't marry a Bas Yisrael. The master is still the authority to give him to get shechur in order to. So it's a serious thing. You need it. So that's so far we have a focus. You do, you don't. You do, you don't. Just to finish it off. Chachamim. What is this word here? This is still another opinion. There's Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shmuel. Those who are machriya, those who are going to balance, those are some kind of a pshor, some kind of a compromise. So there's another shita that they say, Rabbi Tarfon b'shem v'ayim, all the Torah is zachsalo, That they make a kind of a compromise, not a compromise, but some kind of a split between sometimes yes, sometimes no. Does he need to get shekel? So he says, till now we put everything into the same basket, the kulan, all 24 Rosh Hashanah. But it's not. He says it's different. Maybe Shane Vine, the Torah says beferish. If it's the tooth of the eye, the Torah says first that it goes free. The rest of the Ivorim, it's only a drasha. It's not beferish. So he says, if it will be Shane Vine, then I agree to Rabbi Tarfon that he does not need to get shekel because the Torah says that he goes free, so he does need to get shekel. But if Rabbi Kiva b'Shari Ivorim, since it's only a knas chachamim, knas chachamim sound like it's rabbanon, that it's only a knas rabbanon, so he does need to get shekel. But the Gemara jumps up. Is that true? Knas. It's not a knas in the rabbanon. It's the raisa. We learn that from the drasha. It's the raisa. It doesn't say openly, but it's still a drasha, so it's also the raisa. So what's the difference if it's going to be Shem Vine or the other Rashi Yivarim? Elaim a whole medrash chachamim. So we didn't mean to say knas chachamim. Medrash chachamim is a drash. So the Gemara is the differentiating, distinguishing between a beferish pasuk, if it's explicit in the pasuk Shem Vine or it's a drash, even though it's the raisa, but it's not as explicit. So therefore, he does need to get shekel. Taisha talks about what's the difference. If the Mai says the Raisa, why should he need to get Shechra? Taisha says a pshat, maybe it's only from Marasayan. People don't know about it, so they'll think that he's still an Eved. So they made that he should give him a Shechra in the Staka only to show. But anyway, that's to point out what happened so far. There was a question of Mukav get Shechra. Is the mass that he was Yosel Acheris, but he still needs a document of liberation that he's now mutter in order to make him mutter to marry a Bashorim. And the Gemara wanted to know, is the master called the master? Because there's that authority to give him the get shekel, make him a master in order that there should be payments to him for the Eved's damages or not. And the Gemara didn't know. The Gemara didn't prove the answer. We left with a question. The Gemara doesn't answer the question. Mm-hmm. Right. And then the Gemara analyzes it and changes it. Right. Kanasu. Right. Now the Gemara analyzes it. Kanas, it's not a knas. So the Gemara says, so edit the brayso that it shouldn't say knas chacham ela hol umedrish chacham. Change the word knas in the brayso to medrish chacham. End of the sugya, and we don't know the answer. The fact that he's a yasal l'cheres v'sorach get shikra is the master still called the master as far as payments go. New question. Ibalu mukav get shikra ochel b'truma or enochel. The halach is that the eved of a kohen is allowed to eat truma. Also, the eved of a kohen is allowed to eat truma. It's called miknas kaspo. Who yochol b'lachmo that eved of a kohen is also allowed to eat truma. How about if he's in the status of yatzal l'cheres v'tzarach get shikra? On one hand, he's free. On the other hand, he still needs to get shikra from his master. Is he called still the eved? A similar question. Before was talking about the payments, and here's talking about the status to eat truma. Can he eat truma because he still needs to get shechel? What's the question? Kinyan kaspa rachmana v'hailav kinyan kaspahu. When the Torah talks about the eved eating truma, it says because he belongs to him, it's kinyan kaspa. But this person is not kinyan kaspa because he went free. Or maybe still he's considered his belongings because he's the one who's authorized to give him a get shechel. May he eat truma or not? Tashma damar rav misharshia kohenes shenis are v'loda b'vlashav chasa. There was a kohenes. Ashes Kohen, who had a shifcha, and both of them were giving birth, and they didn't have the name tags that they have nowadays, and the kids got mixed up. So there are two kids. We don't know in each one is he a Kohen or an Eved? Very fascinating case that you have a person who's either top of the yichus or bottom of the yichus. You have two kids. One of them is the master, happens even to be the master of the other one, but you don't know who's the master and who's the slave. One is a Kohen and one is a Eved. So what do? So they could eat truma because one is a Kohen, one is Eved Kohen. So both of them are allowed to eat truma as they're growing up. When they go to the silo to be able to pick up a portion of truma, they only get one portion because the Eved, even though he's allowed to eat truma, but he doesn't get a portion. He can't go to he's not eligible to get a portion being given out, being apportioned by when they give out truma, he doesn't get. But he could eat truma. So if in order to get truma, both of them should go to the Goren, and then they can get, because one of them is the real Kohen. So if one of them comes, we're not going to give it to him. Maybe you're an Eved. But if both of them come together, so then surely one of them is the Kohen, so we'll give them one portion. When this mixture, a better word than that, this confusion, when this problem grows up, So then we tell them to give it get shikra to each other. Means the real master and the free man. What is Eved Meshukra? We want him to be able to go on with life. He can't marry anybody because either he's a Kohen or he's an Eved. Who's he going to marry? So they should free each other. So now he's a Suffolk Kohen, Suffolk Eved Meshukra. Nice thing to do. True, you're right. Right, very good. This is only as long as he's an Eved, so then he can eat. But now you have one Kohen, one Eved, right? So I won't be able to eat true. That cannot eat truma, right? Good. So what? The more stops here and says, "Oh, you see, I answered your question." Okay. The question was if a mokav get shikra is allowed to eat truma. Here you have it. As long they're going to get a get shikra, as long and they didn't get a get shikra yet. They free each other before they free each other. How could they eat truma? He's on the way to get a get shikra. Don't get intimidated. I'm asking the most kasha, but you're right. You have something to say that it doesn't seem to make sense. They're going to free each other. So we tell them. So the more is asking, we said a whole sugi over here, a mukab get shikra if he's allowed to eat truma. Because on one hand he's free, on the other hand, he ain't going to get shikra yet. And the more brings this brisa, this Rabbi Sharsha, to say, here you see a case that one is Eved, one is a Kohen, and the Eved is eating truma, even though he's going to get shechur. How could he get? When they get big enough to become a mitzvah, that they can be free as ever, let's say. Could be. Or whatever. Yes, and the most looking at it, you see, he has to get shechur. So how can he eat truma? So the answer is obvious. I don't know if anybody's going to word it, but the Gemara says, "What does that have to do with each other?" The question is, the reason our question is because since he's been liberated, in our case, he's Yasser L'Cheir, says he needs to get shechur. Could he eat truma? Maybe he can't eat truma because he's not owned anymore. Here, of course he could eat truma. Why shouldn't he be able to eat truma? Right now, the one who's a Kohen is a Kohen. The one who's an Eved is an Eved. We're going to free him later on, technically, in order to make sure that he should be able to marry. But as long as he's an Eved, he's a full-fledged Eved. Over here, we're saying somebody who's on the way to get shechur, but he's freed already. He's not an Eved. He's not. The question is not called Kinyan Kaspa. Over here, surely we don't know who it is. If Eliyahu Navi would come and tell us who's who, so he's the Kohen and he's the Eved. And the Eved is a full-fledged Eved. He's not somebody on the way out. They're going to free each other for their own technical reasons why they want to free each other in order that I should get free. In my case, I'm the Eved. But there's no case here that he's he's halfway out. He's not halfway out. He's fully in. He's a full Eved. He's owned by his master. But I don't know who it is, so we're going to solve the confusion. But it's not a reason why he should be considered that he's he's not owned anymore by the Kohen. He's owned. He just doesn't know. We don't know who's the owner, who's not. So it's not a right hard question. We have time. Go ahead. Who keep working? One is a Kohen, one's an Eved? The case of not the Kohen Eved, the case of the Chatzi ben Chorin, the Kofen is Rabbi, also ben Shechur, also ben Chorin. He has to till he gets to get Shechur, he has to work. He doesn't work. The best he didn't get for some Shechur. The regular case of Yasser L'Cheir for self get Shechur, he doesn't work. That I understand. He doesn't work. The Yasser L'Cheir is Hamafkir Avdo. He stops working. You don't own me anymore. I need to get Shechur, but there's no reason why I should work. But the question was by Chatzi ben Chorin, and the Mishnah Achronu that we're going to force the master to free him. But till he frees him, is there any reason why he shouldn't work for the master? Every other day, right? So they're gonna. Why doesn't make sense then? The Gemara talks about that he doesn't own him anymore, so he's not called Mikdas Kaspa. Why is not called the case of the Gemara thought the Chatzi ben Chorin case, or the case of the Shor Shenagach. Maybe that's part of the kfir that we stop working. Yeah, could be, but really, technically not. If he says I'm willing, that's okay. When should I come to Bezdin? They say next Tuesday. So okay, or we're on vacation now. We'll come back in a month. So any reason why he shouldn't continue working? I'm ready to write a get. I'm ready to write a get as soon as possible. Okay, so could be. Should we go further? Are we okay? Iboilu, we're 6 lines from the bottom. Iboilu. Where are we? Is it okay if we continue a little bit more Gemara? Rabbi Yaakov, is that okay if we take some more time? Should we take that as a
Yes, it's okay. No problem.
okay? Okay. Sorry for the delay. Rebuvain, the Gemara is good. Okay. What are we doing now? Stop recording. No, we're not stopping to record yet. I'm sorry that the screen's not working today. Back to the Gemara. 6 lines from the bottom. Iboilu. Eved shemocher rabul knas. Oh, the same fancy case. Eved, nothing to do with the whole sugya. There's a Eved. Someone owns an Eved. What's Eved worth? He can work, all kinds of things. Eved's worth a lot of money. He wants to sell only one schus that I have in the Eved. I have a schus and the master has a schus in the Eved that if he gets killed, I'm eligible to get 30 shkolim. We hope he doesn't get killed. But if he gets killed, the master has a schus that he's going to get 30 shkolim. Not shkolim, today shkolim. 30 silver pieces. So he wants to sell that schus to somebody. What do you call? There's a word for that. Futures. That in case the Eved gets killed, so the buyer will get the 30 shkolim. How is he going to pay for it? I don't know. He'll pay a small amount on the chance that he gets killed. That 1 out of 30. That's a pretty big chance. Yeah, I would say much less than 1. I would say much less. Whatever it is, that half a shekel, I don't know. But that's the question: can you sell it? Can you sell the right to collect the 30 shkolim if he gets killed? If he sold them only for that amount, he sold the knas aspect, the 30 shekel aspect, if he gets killed. What's the question? So the more goes into the sugya of davar shalom ba'ala olam. That doesn't exist yet. There is no such payments yet. And there's machlokas it might never come. But right now it's not here. There's machlokas Ramein Rabbanan about adam mat davar shalom ba'ala olam. Can you sell something that doesn't yet exist? Can you sell something that doesn't yet exist? The question is applicable both to Rav Meir and it's applicable to Rabbanan. The word Tiboy means it can be asked. Tiboy Rav Meir, even though Rav Meir says that a person could sell something which doesn't exist. I could sell somebody, I have a deck, I have a palm tree, and it's going to grow dates. It didn't grow dates yet. I could sell the dates that are going to grow. And Rav Meir says you could. Why? David also because it's normal to come. Usually that's what happens. Who says that was going to get killed? And even if he does, who says his payment's going to come in? Maybe some reason they're not going to pay. So it's not called that it's on the table. It's not even going to come on the table. Maybe. So maybe your mayor also will say over here that you cannot sell the knas. On top of the next page, and I'm sorry, I didn't read the Dilma Moda Mifta. Maybe the reason why the person is not going to pay the knas is because Moda Knas Pata. The whole thing is a knas, and if the person comes himself and admits that his shor killed the Eved, he doesn't have to pay. So there are 2 strikes that might never happen. Either the shor might not kill the Eved might not get killed, and even if the Eved did get killed by his shor, maybe the owner of the shor is going to be Moda, he's not going to have to pay. So maybe even a mayor will say you cannot sell this future of knas. Even the Rabbanan say usually you cannot sell Peres Dekel. I'd come to come here Rabbanan now the end of the Makdav Shalom Olam Melech on Peres Dekel the Hashta Mia Lesnu. That right now there are no dates. You can't sell the dates that are going to come because right now there are no dates. Avalocha Akoy Shor Akoy Eved. Here the shor exists, the Eved exists. It didn't happen yet. The shidduch didn't happen that the shor killed the Eved, but everything, all the pieces are here. They just weren't put together yet. Maybe that's considered enough present that it's called the davar shabala olam. So that's the question. Can somebody sell the future of, in case his Eved gets killed by a shor, that he'll get the buyer will be eligible to get the 30 shkolim? They're not here. Lesnu, they're not here. Ashtem Yah Lesnu, they are not here presently. But Avalacha, the shor is here, and the Eved is here. So that's what we're looking for. Amr Abba Tashma Vilid Bayis. Ma Talmud Loma. It says in the pasuk that Yilid buys Miknas Kesef can eat truma, and a Yilid buys can eat truma means if somebody buys an eved, or if the eved was born in his property, means that Shifcha gave birth to a eved, so they're allowed to eat truma. Ma Talmud Loma. Why does it have to say that a Yilid buys? Yilid buys is more of an eved. He was born to you. You have the Shifcha, that Shifcha gave birth to an eved. Surely it's yours, even if you bought him. Even if he was born to you. So why does it have to say Yilid buys? It says already Kinyan Kesef. Into Kinyan Kesef also Yilid buys Lakolshken. It wasn't necessary to say Yilid buys. It's a Kolshken. It says even Miklas Kaspo is allowed to eat truma. The answer is Ilukay. Now you see Omer my Kinyan Kesef Sheyesh Bo Shabbat Kesef Ochel. If Yilid buys Sheyesh Bo Shabbat Kesef Ochel. I would say that only if he has value, only if the eved is valuable, he has some worth to him. And Miklas Kesef means you bought him. That means it was worth something. But Yilid buys, it could be a kind of someone an eved might have been born that's not worth anything. Maybe he's invalid. Maybe he can't do anything. Maybe he's not worth anything. So maybe you'd think that only a eved who's worth something can eat truma. That's why he says Yilid buys, even though he's not. Yilid buys, even if he's not worth anything, he has no value, no market value. Also, he eats truma. But Kinyan Kesef Yesh B'Shavak Kesef Ochel Ein B'Shavak Kesef Ein Ochel. Even after you have the drasha to say that if he was born into your rishus, he could eat truma even if he's not worth anything. But maybe if you bought him, he's only going to be able to eat truma as long as he's worth something. When you bought him, surely he was worth something. Let's say he went down in value now, and he's not worth anything. He became crippled, whatever, became invalid, and he's not worth anything as an eved. Maybe he can't eat truma anymore. Talmud Lomar, Kinyan Kaspo, Yilid Beiso, puts together a hekesh, the same pasuk, both of them. Once you know that Yilid Bais can eat truma even if he's not valuable, so to a Kinyan Kaspo also could eat truma even though he has no value. My Yilid Bais api she'ena shavah klum, ochel, he could eat truma. Af Kinyan Kaspo api she'ena shavah klum, ochel. Ad kan brisa. What does the brisa say? That eved is allowed to eat, eved of a kohen is allowed to eat truma. No difference if he's Kinyan Kaspo or if he was Yilid Beiso, if he's worth or he's not worth. All the Gemara wants to get out of this is that it says one thing. It says it's possible for an eved not to be worth anything. So simple. If I would have learned this 10 years, I don't think I would have figured out what the Gemara wants from this. But the Gemara wants, you see, this eved is not worth anything. Why is the eved not worth anything? You could sell him for knas. Every eved is worth something. Even if he's invalid and he can't do anything, but he's worth that if he gets gored, it's worth 30. If you could sell the right to collect the 30 kesef, so he's worth something. How much is it? 10 agorot, but it's something. So that's the Gemara's kasha. You see that the eved is not worth. It's possible that eved is not worth anything. If it's possible to sell the eved only for knas, it's a good sale. So is there an eved who's not possible to be sold for knas? Every eved is worth something. The Gemara says in ika eved treifa. It could be that if he's a treifa, that treifa means that he has something physically wrong with him that he can't live. Even if somebody would kill him, he's not chayiv misa. And if the eved's going to kill him, there's no shloshim shel kesef. So the such an eved is not worth anything. If he's a treifa, even if you could sell him for knas, but this eved has no knas. The more has a side kasha now. Every eved is worth something. The eved is not worth anything. He could be a servant. He could do something. Stand by him. I would say if he can't, like if he's in bed or something like that. But the Gemara says, maybe that's the Gemara's answer. If he's disgusting and he has all kinds of boils, and you don't want him to be next to you, so then it wouldn't even be. Maybe the Gemara meant to say, even if he can't do anything, it has to be you have a servant. You have somebody. You have a servant standing next to you. But if he's a menuvel mukashkin, so it's not a cover to the master to have him. So it's not worth that either. Not can we still have a long way to go with Chatzi ben Chorin. That's Yashikah. Let me put it on again. I lost it. 1 second. Yeah, the whole thing goes until okay. This word over here. You don't have it. Afkin kaspa pishena kashavakum okay. Last one on the line. Before it starts, Esau can bank up, right? Then the Gemara takes over. Okay. A gufa? Oh, the Gemara's going to ask. That's the next video. Yeah, it's coming up. We didn't do it yet. What's the kasha? What's the kasha, by the way?